So you're looking to share your board with someone outside of your organization? Well, in this video, I'm going to show you tips and tricks that you haven't seen in any YouTube tutorial. So if you want to make most out of Monday.com, let's get started. So there's actually 3 ways that you can share your information with people outside of your organization. And you can do that in various ways. The first one is to share a specific view, a board view, by a URL, which I'll show you in a second. The second one is by adding a guest to a board. And the third one is to adding a viewer to your account. And I'll cover all 3 of them and how you can have different types of access to each of those roles, because it goes quite in depth. So let's start with the first one, sharing the board with a URL. So this one is actually great. So let's just start by showing you how to do it, and then we'll go into more detail. So if you have a board like this one, you can actually see the views at the top. And if you hover over it, you can see the 3 dots and click on share. And when you click share, you can start sharing this board as a shareable link or as an embed code. So if you want to share this board, for example, on your website to the public, you can use this embed code. If you want to share it with a specific person, you can use the shareable link. So click copy, and I'll show you what the person will see. It's something like this. There you go. As you can see, I'm now a viewer. I can just open this view at all times, but I cannot change anything. So if I click here, I cannot do anything. I cannot see the updates. I can literally do nothing. This is actually great if you want to share a board with someone outside of your organization and you just want to share the status of some tasks. You don't want to share any updates, any communication. You don't want to give any access to change anything. Then this is the exact thing you'd like to see. You can even make it more detailed. So we can, for example, allow this person to see only, to not see how many hours we spent, or to not see a specific group. And I'll show you how. As you might know, in Monday, you can save your filter settings as a view. So let's say we would filter on, well, we only want to, let's call this one the top group and this one the bottom group. Oh, group. Come on. There you go. Then we can say, well, we only want this person to see the top group and we want to hide the spent hours column. And we're going to save that as a new view. And we call it external. And now if you change it, you see in this one, I see the spent hours in the bottom group, and in this one, I don't. So let's say we only want to share this specific view with a client, for example. We can do the same thing, go to the 3 dots, click share, and then use that link. I'll show you what it looks like because it's very similar. As you can see, this is the old one we had, and this is the new one we had. I can still not change anything, but I can see less than I just was able to see. And this is a great way to show specific columns to specific people with specific groups or specific filter functions. Like, you can go very in depth with this. What I also often do is add a column that says shared externally and have a yes and a no option. By default, it's set to no. And then when, for example, a person is assigned, it's set to yes. Or when a deadline is assigned, it's set to yes. Well, you can work with all those types of automations to automatically share information with people outside of your organization, or to restrict certain access to this board. So this is actually one of the best ways to share information if you want to keep it very restricted and you want to have control on what people can see and cannot see. So that's the first thing. The second thing is to add a person as a guest. And guests are an awesome thing in Monday. It's different than a member because a member of your organization will require a paid seat, whereas guests are free. And you can add a guest to a board by starting with changing the board structure to a shareable board. So if you right click on the board on the left hand side, you'll have the change board type and then change to shareable option. You also see this option by going here and then doing settings, change board type, and change to shareable. It's the same button. So let's click. Then you have this pop-up. It says, do you want to invite the people that are already assigned to this board? Do you want to invite them again? Well, feel free to change this. I'll just keep it at invite them. Keep in mind that for a normal board, you actually would need to, you don't need to invite them because everyone in your workspace is allowed to see that board. However, if you have a shareable board, you need to specifically invite your teammate to this board, otherwise they won't be able to see it. So let's change it to shareable, and notice this icon. As you can see, it's now a normal board, but if I click here, it's changed to a shareable board, which you can see by this small icon. The big difference between what happened in a normal board and a shareable board is in the invite section. And if you click here, you'll see a big section for board guests. And this is actually awesome. You can now invite guests to your board. Keep in mind, if you want to invite your team, still do it here. But if you invite your guests, do it here. So I'll just invite myself. So I'll do guest tutorial. I'll just make a guest account and I'll send this email to myself. As you can see, it's pending invitation. I can resend it by clicking here. Sometimes you need that if your guests don't know much about Monday or don't know why they got the email in the first place. And now I'll show you what the guest will see. So this is actually what a guest would see. It's just an email saying, hey, Patrick invited you to collaborate on this board. And if they accept the invitation, I'll do it incognito so we can see what the client would see or the guest. You would see something like this. So give a full name. Let's do test demo Patrick and give a password. And then we continue. It will ask a few things like who are you and what do you do, but you can just continue if you want. And it will ask for a profile picture, which I'll also skip. Then it will give you some welcome stuff, welcome pop-ups and help. And then as you can see, it looks like this. I'm now a guest in this board. As you can see on the left-hand side, I can only see the board that was shared with me. I cannot see all the other boards that I have in my workspace. So that's actually what a guest can do. And now it gets interesting because as you can see, I can just change, as a guest, I can change everything, which can be great, but maybe you don't want this. And that's where board permissions come in. Board permissions, and I'm now back to the admin board, can be found by clicking here and then going into permissions. If you click there, you see a few board permission options. And I'll start with the editing permissions because those are most important. So you can allow or not allow your guests to do certain things. You can let them edit everything on the board. You can let them edit everything except for the structure. You can let them edit items or sub-items they're assigned to, or you can let them only write updates. So I would never recommend to use this one unless you have the guest that knows a lot about Monday and you trust them completely. This one could be great if you want to collaborate extensively with the guest and want to give them access to a lot. This one is amazing if you want to give access to a guest on things that the person needs to approve some things on. So let's say you created a YouTube video and you want the guest to approve the YouTube video. You can just assign the guest and then the guest will see it and be able to edit it. And there's also an option write updates on items only. If you just want to communicate with the guest and not show any column, not let them edit anything, you should use this specific feature. I'll also briefly cover this part. As you can see, by default, everyone can see all items on the board, but there's also this option, which actually is already available for enterprise, but it says coming soon, which might indicate that it's available to non-enterprise plans in the future. However, as of now, it's enterprise only. And what it does is it will allow you to make sure that people can only see items they are assigned to. So let's say you have a guest, you want them to approve some stuff, and you only want them to see the things they need to approve. Then you can just have a people column and assign the guest, and then the guest will be able to see that specific item. Anyways, as of now, it's enterprise only. So if you made a change, click on save, and then you can continue from there. There's one other thing that's very important when you work with guests, which are column permissions. So if you're on a column, such as, well, let's go back to the main table, such as this date column. As of now, as you can see, I can see it as a guest. But what you can do is go to the three dots, go to settings, and then either restrict column editing, so I'm not allowed to edit this specific column, or restrict column view, which doesn't allow me to see the column at all. So if I restrict this and I go back to the guest, as you can see, it's now hidden from me and there's no way for me to see this column. However, and by the way, you can add more people who can see it here. But if I, for example, remove this restriction and then add a restrict column editing, you'll see that I will be able to see the column. As you can see, oh, it has an error loading the board. That's interesting. There you go. And as you can see, there's this lock icon, and it shows me that I can only view this specific column and not change it as a guest. However, if I would add the guest here, I would be able to change it. See? So that's how you can play around with restricting access on certain levels to certain people, including your guests, which is an awesome feature. There's another role, which is the viewer role, and I'll show you that now. And after that, I want to show you an extra permission layer that's not often talked about. So yeah, stay tuned. So the last role is actually the viewer role, as I just showed. Viewers can do a lot, but also not a lot. They can literally see everything in your account, except for the stuff you don't allow them to see, but they cannot do anything. They can only view. And I'll show you that by inviting a viewer. So if I go to my admin settings and then to administration, I can go into users and then add a new user by clicking invite. So I can choose which products I would like the user to see. In my case, it's just work management, but you can also do other ones. And you can invite them. So let's do Patrick plus viewer test@patrickcole.com. And as you can see here, you would need to select the viewer read only option. Then you invite the person, and that person will then receive an email. There you go. As you can see, it looks very similar to what we just had. And just ask you to invite. Then I'll just accept it as well. Also incognito, so we see what the person would see. And as you can see, just some information, full name, Patrick Viewer, and test. Oh, I'll just change the name real quick and then have a password. There you go. Just the same introduction questions and the same question for a profile picture, which I'll skip. And what's interesting here is that, as you can see on the left hand side, I can literally see anything and everything in my account, like everything. It's a bit crazy actually how much I can see. So I can see everything except for the shared board because it's a shareable board. So if I want the person to see it, I would need to invite him. So let's do that real quick. So do Patrick Viewer. And now I can also see this board. And what's interesting about this is that, as you can see, I can see everything. I cannot change anything. See, as a viewer, you cannot make a change. I can click on views. I can open the update so I can see the communication. I cannot write an update. So I'm very, very limited in what I can do. And this is exactly what is created for this specific viewer. Like that's what a viewer should be able to do. And viewers are great for a few use cases. Let's say you're an event management company and you have a workspace that you use just for a specific event because it's such a big event. You have a marketing board for the event, planning, I don't know, maybe something for employees. You can do a lot with regards to events. And let's say you want to invite this specific person for the whole workspace, but you don't want him to change anything. Then a viewer works great. You can then go to, for example, your workspace settings, which is here, and then manage the workspace. Oh, I'll do it as an admin, not as a viewer. So manage the workspace. And in the member section, I can actually add members to this workspace. And as you can see, Patrick Viewer is already a member. So he would be able to see everything in this workspace, which is great. And that's actually how you can, play around with viewers and give them access. You can then restrict permission on workspace level and on account level. And this is something for the enterprise people. And I'm going to show you that right now. So I'm now on an enterprise account. As you can see, there is now a permissions tab with a few options for the permissions. a workspace viewer is not something where you can actually change the permissions. However, you can change permissions for viewers, which is something you can do in your administration settings. So if you go here and you go into administration, and on the left hand side go to permissions, you'll see all the permissions options. And this is actually the very in-depth stuff that you can do with Enterprise that's not available on any other plan. And it's super interesting. So yeah, just take a look. As you can see, you have some default account roles: admin, viewer, member, and guest. And if you click on something, you can see what they can do. By default, viewers cannot do much, but this is an interesting thing. They can export data to Excel by default, which you might not even want. They can also do some other things by default that you might not want, although they are not very crazy. I would turn off these, for example, but that's it really. However, if you want certain viewers to do some things and certain viewers to do other things, such as enabling exporting data to Excel, you can use custom account roles. And the same thing is true for guests. So if you can see this, or as you can see, guests can do quite a lot more, or you can enable guests to do quite a lot more. And what you can do is work with different types of guests. You can work with freelance guests, but also with client guests. And maybe you want a freelancer to do more than a client can do. So what you can do is add a custom account role, such as this one, and then give it a name, such as guest client, and base it on the guest role. And if you create it, you'll see I already created this one in the past, guest freelancer, but now we have guest client as well. And we can say, well, this guest client can do this, 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 and maybe not this and this, for example. This is actually interesting because now you can give an extra layer of permissions to specific people. You can now give this role to a guest by going into users, and then for your guest, click on this to the user role, and then you see the custom roles at the bottom, the guest client and the guest freelancer. Here you can click on one of the two, change their permissions, and by doing that, give them way more advanced and in-depth ways of handling permissions. So that's how you would do it. Hopefully you like this video. I think I shared quite a few interesting things on how you can create very advanced layers of permissions in Monday.com. So if you liked it, please leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions or run into problems, just comment them below and I'll try to answer all your questions. And if you need tailored advice, you need a custom project, you need just help from me, you can reach out to me in the description or my contact details. Hopefully you have a great day and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.